Hi Anastasia, let's take a look at your first set of essays here. Here's what you wrote. Okay, I believe that discussion about developing creativity and imagination of children is one of the most important questions in child psychology. I disagree that enjoyable activity can develop better skills and more creativity than reading. Moreover, who said that the reading is not an enjoyable activity? Okay, let's look at the first problem here. The first problem here is that you have no paragraphs. Maybe you wrote it in a program that had paragraphs, but I just want to tell you, since it's your first set of essays, that paragraphing is extremely important in task 2. So the best way to show paragraphing is at the end of each paragraph, just hit return, hit enter, and make sure you leave an entire space for an entire line to indicate that it's a paragraph. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is this doesn't entirely follow the structure of what an introduction should sound like. What I mean is that you've got these two sentences that just go straight into your opinion. I believe this, I disagree this, and then you end off with a question. So if you review the template again, you'll see that that's not entirely how we do this. So I would recommend looking at the template again and seeing how it suggests to rephrase the prompt. Okay, and there's some language that you can use, like there's some expressions that are really helpful and to do this. So I would like to see that. I'd like to see you trying to implement the template a little more. And I don't think that posing a question here is such a good idea. It can be effective sometimes in essay writing, but I want to encourage you not to do this. Not for IELTS at least. Okay? So let's also now talk a little bit about the grammar. I believe that the discussion about developing creativity and imagination in children is one of the most important questions in child psychology. I disagree that an enjoyable activity can develop better skills and more creativity than reading. Moreover, who said that reading without the the is not an enjoyable activity? Okay? That's how you would want to do this, grammatically speaking. Alright, moving on. Firstly, I want to admit that reading is the most important for infants and toddlers. Okay, this is because they do not only listen to the relative lovely voice, but also look at bright pictures of books. For example, last Russian research shows kids in such age do the big leap in vocabulary, learn different subjects, weather, mood, seasons, and animals. Book can help with developing such skills. Therefore, we see the importance of reading for little babies. Okay, it looks like this is where your paragraph ends. So let's go over this a little. For me, it's a problem of grammar and vocabulary here. So let's fix some of it. Firstly, I know that in your introduction you used I, but now you want to avoid it. Remember, this is a fairly academic essay. So let's not use so much I. All right? Instead, firstly, it is clear that reading is very important for infants and toddlers. This is because they not only listen to, I guess when you mean their relatives, they're like their grandmother, their mother, their father. This is because they not only listen to a lovely voice reading to them, I guess you would want to say to make it clearer, but also look at bright pictures in books. Okay. For example, recent Russian research shows children, we never use kids in IELTS essays because it's just far too informal, children at such an age. What does this mean here? Do the leap. Are you trying to say that because they are read to, children greatly develop vocabulary, learn different subjects, weather, mood, seasons, and animals? I think that's what you mean, but this is a really awkward expression here. Books can help with developing such skills. Therefore, I don't like this we see. Instead, let's say, therefore, the importance of reading for little children is clear. Okay? All right, let's move on. Secondly, exploring books is really significant for the older child to develop creativity. This is due to the fact that reading books helps to dream about fantasy worlds, join an incredible adventure, become a king, defeat a monster, and all of this. This is a little awkward, and all of this. I want to make this passive voice. All of this can be painted or sculpted or written by the child after reading. You don't need a comma here. Take, for example, children over 2 years old understand speech, follow the content of the book, and successfully play the situations from the book in reality. Consequently, it is great to read a book for older children. It will be an enjoyable activity. Okay. To conclude with the examples and arguments given, I firmly disagree that doing an enjoyable activity, the child can develop better skills and more creativity than reading. In the future, I believe reading will be more and more popular, not only among adults, but also among children too. Okay, that was fine. All right, so this is really interesting. I think I've read this essay like over 100 times. And I think you're the first person who said, no, reading is better, which is nice. It's nice to see a different viewpoint. So I liked that you had ideas. I liked that you supported them. You did have ideas. You had thoughts. You had certainly you had opinions about this, and you developed them. So that's a good starting point. But some of the language is awkward, and some of the structure is not entirely appropriate. So that's what I want you to work on. I want you to work on following the template a little more closely. I also want you to make your language a little more academic. And just be careful of some of the grammar. I saw you missing some articles and things like that. So, I spent quite a bit of time on this one. Let's move on to your next one about schools. So that's what you said here. Nowadays, almost every parent faces a problem that their children do not want to study at school. Truth to be told, I understand it, and I think that the schools should be more entertaining year by year. All right, it's a little brief. Again, you didn't really restate the topic. I think you should have done that earlier. This whole idea of, whether schools should be entertaining or whether they should be merely academic. Yeah, I think you needed to do a better rephrasing of this. And this is awkward here too, truth to be told. The expression is truth be told, but also it's not really appropriate here. It's a little too conversational, a little too idiomatic. So I don't think it's the greatest expression here, okay? Okay, let's move on. Firstly, okay, again, I already told you, I don't really think you should be writing I want to know, I want to say, I want to state, I want to admit, and so forth. Get rid of those, make it less personal, and then just start with the sentence. So firstly, children spend half a day at school and study all this time. Okay, the grammar here is off. Let's fix it. School children spend half a day at school and studying all this time is really hard. This is why creative and unusual fun schools attract a child's attention. Moreover, brain-relaxing activities during their school hours can help them remember information in class better. For example, according to research, 80% of school children want to return to study the next day after the full funding school. Here you need a semicolon. They are happy to return. Therefore, we can motivate our children to study with a smile and at the same time to remember information better. Let's see. Okay. It's very abstract. You didn't really talk about any fun activities. You didn't suggest any fun activities or any entertaining activities. So it was a little abstract. It would have been nice if you had given some tangible evidence, some tangible recommendations, suggestions, something. But on the whole, it's okay. All right. So let's move on. Secondly, the learning process can get monotonous and dull if it is not blended with entertainment. This is due to the fact that visiting the science lecture or just joking or this is weird what's happening here. That visiting a science lecture or just joking or discussing the topic can help a child get involved with the subject deeper. All right, this is a little strange because here you say that visiting a lecture can help get these seem to be very different things. Like joking is entertainment, okay? Discussion is not entertainment, and a lecture is not entertainment. But here you say that it can help the child get involved in the subject deeper. So there's some misunderstanding here. I'm not really sure what you're trying to say. Anyway, for instance, science told us, then deeper student involved in the subject, then he is comfortable and peaceful in the class. All right, I'm sorry. I really don't understand this at all. This whole thing here it's incoherent. It's difficult to understand meaning. So it needs to be revised so that the meaning here is clear. Okay. Consequently, making education more interesting for children to not only remember a course, but also to relate a fun-filled event to a topic that was discussed in class. Okay, that's not a sentence. It's grammatically incorrect. I think there's a better way to do this. You could have said, consequently, education should be made more interesting, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So, to conclude from the examples and arguments given, I absolutely agree with the position that schools have to be more entertaining in the future. I believe, no comma here, every school will be fun enough every school will be fun enough for students to want to visit it every day with joy, not with enjoy. Okay, so, good job writing your first set of essays. This one definitely felt stronger to me in terms of structure. I think you did a better job here with the structure. But the other essay was more coherent. This one had some problems with coherence. I didn't understand this second body paragraph very much at all. So you're on the right track, but there is some work that has to be done. So what I want you to do now is correct these essays and send them back to us. Also send us an error correction list with all of your mistakes and the corrected version next to it. And after that, of course, you have to send us another set of essays as well. So get all that started and try to send these 3 things to us in the next day or so. And we'll meet back here with your next set of essays. Good luck.